Okay. Tara, Shannon, Martha's Milk, and Niti Bali with Farm to Fork Meat Riot. What is today? Today is Sunday, January 28th.
Yes.
Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Good
friends.
afternoon.
We're recording live from the food church here on North Carolina. And I'm speaking with Tara, Shannon from Martha's Milk in Tennessee. And this is just two mamas. We're just two moms. Doing what we have to do because we're trying to save the babies. Isn't that right, Tara?
That's exactly right. Exactly.
So this is just our casual conversation that we decided to record for the benefit of all the mamas who are seeking this type of information. Tara, how did we become acquainted?
So, from my best memory, Rogue of 2020, where you were speaking, and that was a pivotal year, I think, for me. We were very underground selling milk then, but someone at the Homesteaders conference had said, hey, go to this conference, and I figured out at that conference we were riding on the coattails of a lot of warriors that had faced down bureaucracy for years to have food freedom. And across the gamut, there were so many powerful stories. But you guys were all wearing those shirts, I don't care. And I wanted to know why you didn't care. I wanted to know. And then, of course, I heard you speak, and I bought your book. And, I've said it before, but I read your book. I couldn't put it down. And we have some similarities. It's funny that you said this is just two moms because a mom's heart. Like I was rereading the intro to your book today, and Joel Salatin saying, like your force, some people try to tell you to tone it down. That's what I was trying to look for in my verbiage earlier. Is like, no, you don't tone it down after you've lost a child. I don't tone it down after I spent multiple visits in the ER, Vanderbilt, Williamson, Vanderbilt, very, well, reputable institutions here when we lived in Franklin trying to kill my daughter. That is traumatic, trying to help a kid that's crying and screaming in pain, and you finally get it down to food, and it's the food that's causing it. You're not going to tone it down. You're definitely not going to tone it down from other moms. So to answer your original question, I think it's God. I think it's God we were even there. And I can't adequately put into words what hearing your story, your testimony, and your journey in your book did for me. And I posted it online in my Martha's Milk group today, but I am committing to rereading it because it's fire. And it's fire that we all need in our soul to commit back to, our purpose. Our purpose, and what I feel like God's purpose is for me, is to teach what was lost to my kids. And I'm learning alongside with them. Like we're just drinking from a fire hose, exposing everything we can expose. So hopefully our children and their children and the next children will know more truth than we know and be able to not be sick. Be healthy.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the food. Well, I was learning that it was the food, but, it was the MMR vaccine that turned on our daughter's cancer markers, but also any of the vaccinations that we had allowed before that. And I thought I was doing something by being very selective with the vaccines at that time because, I didn't know any better than anybody else, when it came. And what I learned, the hard way, because what I learned is that I was trusting professionals because I was convinced by the orthodoxy that I was not smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I didn't know enough to be able to love my child and advocate for and protect my child by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Tara, that was the big deal for me, was I had to take full responsibility and acknowledge that I allowed professionals to make decisions for my children because I allowed them to convince me that I didn't know any better.
You know, I thought about that today. That's another thing we have in common. And I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up. My mom was vaccine injured when I was 16. And she was in bed for a year. No one knew what chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, no one knew a lot about any of that. She actually went all the way to North Carolina to a doctor to get diagnosed after a year. But she was a biker and a runner. And after taking a booster shot, because her office was next to the nurse's office in a big tile plant in Jackson, Tennessee, they convinced her she was at risk to get this series of Hep B vaccines. And so she's never recovered from that. And it ended my parents' marriage. I'm not, we're not going to go into all that, but it changed a lot in our family and caused that still impacts our family today. We've talked about a lot of that in the past, but divorce, it led to a divorce. Yeah. It led to fractured family. And that was one decision to get a vaccine, and health and how, lack of health. And I remember reading in your book that you guys flip-flopped families and houses around, and you were taking shifts from 7A to 7P, and how disruptive health crisis in a family is, and that's long lasting. And so we knew as adults not to take vaccines. But when I had my own children, what's wild is the orthodoxy, the medical establishment is so powerful. Even though I lived through all of that nightmare in my own family, I was still not sure. I was still made to doubt. Maybe I should get my kids vaccinated. I'm not sure. And I waffled. We never did, but we came really close. And what's wild is, after knowing all that, the brainwashing from 2020 was so strong. And Jay was off work for 7 months with, I'm just going to say whatever that was. We strongly were like, maybe we've been brainwashed the other way. It takes every ounce of wherewithal to wake up daily and go against these
thoughts.
Right? Yes.
These thoughts. They plant these thoughts into our heads, because what are beliefs? They're thoughts we keep thinking. So they just keep giving us these thoughts. And so I also came from, my grandfather was a renowned homeopathic physician, Tara, and everybody's like, how did you grow up with homeopathy and then vaccinate your kids? Because I didn't have enough information to go against the orthodoxy, because I come from a family of doctors. And it was our understanding that allopathic medicine complements homeopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine, because, allopathic has a place. It is the best at opening the body and closing the body. Allopathic medicine is really, really good at putting you back together again if you've been broken apart.
Correct.
They're really good at that. And I was never raised to believe that doctors were the devils. I was raised to believe that we're on the same team. And I still believe that we're on the same team with the living men and the women, but we're not on the same team with the corporatocracy. So, let me explain that, I guess. It was, I was actually, who explained this to me was Alan Savory.
Okay.
So one of my mentors is Alan Savory. I had read all his books, and, I was following all his work. And I had the pleasure of meeting him and spending a weekend with him. and we were at the Savory Institute Global Family Reunion on White Oak Pastures in Alabama. Georgia, Alabama. They're on the Georgia-Alabama border. And so anyway, I was down there, and that weekend was really incredible because Alan had just, I guess it might have been within the first couple of years of him having established the Savory Institute with Michigan State University. And I was asking him, about all things permaculture and regenerative agriculture, because for me, my focus has always been that I want to be the catalyst to reestablish the small family farm food system. And in my work, that means that I had to study these incredible permaculturists. And what I realized is that everybody has a different focus, okay? So like Alan's focus was trying to prove to everybody that, you need animals to have plants. You need animals to restore the soil, to ensure and support the aquifers. So to reverse desertification, you can use livestock. They don't cause desertification. They reverse desertification. And just like my other mentor, Joel Salatin, his focus is 100% that he wants people to recognize farmers as white collar and not blue collar. And that's another division by the corporatocracy. They want to create this division between white collar and blue collar because when you're blue collar, if you're doing any of the jobs that are blue collar, they want everybody to think that you don't really know anything, when in fact, you actually know how to do things and how to make things. You're the makers. The blue collar people are the makers. They're the doers. I mean, a farmer has to be a veterinarian and a plumber and a mechanic and an electrician and a carpenter. I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving some things out, right? You have to.
I'm just glad you know it.
I mean, the farmers have to also be, the culinary experts, the mothers, the fathers, the gardeners. I mean, you have to be everything. And honestly, everybody used to be a farmer. Everybody, it was just a done thing. If you wanted to eat, you had a homestead.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It wasn't like right now where they're having like this homestead tsunami. It was everybody just homesteaded. There was no choice. You were homesteading. And if you were a homesteader, then you had to know how to do things. It's the corporatocracy that pushed everybody into the cities. It's the corporatocracy that dumbed everybody down. It's the corporatocracy that said, no. You're more scientific minded. You're more artistic. You're more this, that. They want to put everybody in a pinhole and lock them up. And so Alan said, Niti, once you form an institution, that institution no longer operates as human or, on behalf of living men. And I thought, oh my gosh. He said they behave like, a corporate dead fiction, basically. And that's what they are. They're dead fictions. Well, dead speak can't give life. And so now the Savory Institute doesn't know how to give the life the way Alan Savory did. They don't do him any justice. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one, Tara, but
well, that's what, I kind of feel like those things that most people won't say need to be said. And then things can change from that. But if we don't acknowledge where we are, we can't change. And so acknowledging that there's an issue, then you can change it.
Yeah.
But if we're going to keep that covered up, that's not doing anybody any good. And then if you enter into any kind of business arrangement with that institution, then you go in fully with the blindfold off. And you can get what you say in your foreword of your book or the beginning of your book. If you interact with one person or, one meeting, if it gives you something practical to put in place, it's worth it. So, people need to know these things that ruffle feathers. And those things need to be changed. So that's what we mama bears are here for.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to be willing to hear each other's stories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sharing the stories is fine, but these days everybody only wants to share their stories. They don't want to hear the other stories. And I think that in order for us to honor the law, God's law, which, natural law and God's law is the same law, it is based in the universal expansion. We are here to procreate. We are here to expand the universe. We're not here to, repeat the past.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to repeat the last 100 years for sure. So one of the things that you and I have talked about is the truth. What are the top two laws? Will you go into that?
Yeah, that was actually very fascinating because I think it's important for people to know how we came to that. You were asking me about religion, remember?
Yep, and I would like to talk about that because I do feel like that can be a touchy subject for people. But if we don't talk about it, I grew up in a culture where you don't talk about differences in religion. It just makes people uncomfortable. You don't talk politics, you don't talk religion. Well, how about we talk about it respectfully? And you learn about what another person thinks, how they worship, what are their experiences, and you learn something like that. You take away something. But if you're afraid to discuss it, like a lot of topics, then we're not learning anything. And so I am still fascinated to learn more about your faith, about everything for me is through the lens of faith. How do we make all what we're seeing make sense through the lens of faith? And it's interesting to me, your lens. And so can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, our parents were raised in India. That is where all of their history is. And so, our parents were born slaves of the British India Company. They were under what was called British rule, and it was blatant British rule. They were enslaved. That's what that means. That means all of India was enslaved by the crown. And everyone knows about the story of Gandhi. And Gandhi had realized the fraud. And my mother was born during the blackouts, when there was the separation, right then when Pakistan was being formed in 1947, she was born. And so in any case, our parents were raised Hindu, but my grandfather was friends with all people. And there were Christians and Muslims and Hindus all in India at the time, and he was friends with everybody. And so during the separation, during the blackouts, there was the Hindu-Muslim riots. So, whether you were a Hindu or a Muslim, you were on the X. And my grandfather was involved in protecting them and helping them get over the border, or helping everybody get on whatever side they needed to be on to be safe, because there's no reason for that. There was no reason for that. So, although my parents were raised as Hindus, their friends were Muslim, Christian, whatever, everything. The other thing that people don't understand or know about Hinduism is it's one of the most ancient religions. It's between Hinduism and I think it's Taoism is the only other oldest religion in the Chinese faith. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on it. But I'm not the knower of the most ancient religions, but I do know that there's the most ancient Chinese religion and the most ancient Indian religion is Hinduism. And right after Hinduism was born Buddhism, okay? And then down the line sometime Christianity was born. So we were always taught that Christianity was kind of a toddler versus the older faiths. But what most people don't really know I mean, well, a lot of people do know because they're in India and they know this, but we have one of the greatest populations on the planet as well. So, or the largest is what I mean, not just that they're great, they're large. So one of the largest populations on the planet. And, and so a lot of people obviously do know this, but in Hinduism, all of the other faiths are incorporated in our faith. And when
I did not know that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, when I would try to explain that to people, then they thought, that is, I don't know what they thought because they never would talk to us afterwards. So they never really understood what I was saying. But if you read like the Bhagavad Gita or any of our religious books, which are many, we don't have just one like Bible or something. We have many religious books. And all of the books encompass all the many stories before Christianity, which I know that Christians acknowledge because there's AD and BC, before Christ and after his death, right? So there was a before Christ and an after death. So that means there was things happening before that. And if you acknowledge that, then you must acknowledge that there was some other faith. So what was that faith, And so I'm telling you, I don't know all of them, but what I know for sure is that Hinduism and some Oriental faith also were the two oldest, and then there were many other faiths beyond that, right? And most of these religions were born to divide people. Because if you follow God's law or universal law, those are immutable, objective laws. And I'll just use like gravity, for example. You don't have to take a class to learn about gravity. Your belief is not required in gravity. It just is. Right?
Right.
So is all.
Whether you believe in it or not, that is a truth. And that's one of the other things I think that we have in common is that we both know that there's a truth. We may not agree on how to get there, but we believe there is a truth. In this world we live in, there is truth.
Yeah.
And you can find it. And we don't have to agree on it. But if you're looking at everything we're looking at, like the hospital system, the education system, all these institutions that are not, operating as a human and not operating within natural law, how do we see that through our faith lens? And that's so interesting to me because I have, years to learn about Hinduism and other religions. Like there's not enough time to become a seminarian, right? There's so many different tracks you can focus on. But to be respectful and acknowledge, okay, that's your faith. Okay, I have my faith. But I found it beautiful that we agree on, like, do no harm. First, do no harm. How does that translate to everything we're looking at? And then the other one that you said was do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I'm like, that embodies everything.
Yeah. If everybody just only operates on those two rules, those two laws, first of all, those are universal laws. Also, there is no faith out there that is a God-fearing faith that does not have those two laws. I don't know of one. There might be something I don't know about, but I don't know all the faiths. I haven't studied all of them. But any God-fearing faith is going to say, you first do no harm. And then do unto others as you want others to do unto you. And that's, what's incredible is that is the law of the land. There's only two laws on the land. And one is do no harm. And two is do unto others as you want others to do unto you. That means, you don't kill. Now, the convolution is, okay, now you're not supposed to kill a cow or a chicken or a goat, and so that means you're supposed to be vegetarian. This is nonsense. This is nonsense because you raise plants that are living and you raise animals that are living. All life begets life. But when you go back to the beginning, you cannot have plants without animals. The plant wasn't the first thing to show up as life, as proof of life. the first thing that was to show up as proof of life was the cell. And that is, that would be more, the life that was born first was of an animal. And that is what gives life. And so Alan's work proves it too. He says that we require the migration of the livestock, the pressure they put on the land and the soil that actually allows the seeds to grow. And as a regenerative farmer and all of what you're working on over there with the cows, I mean, is that true?
It's definitely true, and we're still learning. I mean, we're still learning as much as we can because, we do milk, and I was just a mom that thought, okay, my kid can't drink pasteurized dead milk. I finally figured that out, and then broke through the glass of it won't kill you if you drink it raw. So that took a minute. Mm-hmm. And then you learn as much as you can about dairy animals and milking them and their schedule, and like what you said, be the veterinarian and and you're being a mom, and we go, we've passed each other at conferences since then. Kay and I are just getting to, literally, about a year ago, we had soil testing, we had a soil consult here, and we are just wrapping our minds around, whoa, we started from the milk cow, and we needed to start with the grass and the soil, Mm-hmm. And you touch it here and there. But all life, like your book even says, all life begins in the soil. Like, we've got to be stewards of that first. And so that's our goal this year in 2024, mm-hmm. is to focus more on that. One of the things I'm going to back up really quickly that I thought was really just so simple but revolutionary, how you can apply this practically to your life if you just follow those two laws, whatever faith you are. In regards to purchasing food, buying food, interacting with the food system, when you said I can't buy food from a CAFO because animals aren't treated well there,
right?
It has always bothered me as just like an animal lover, a steward of animals. Like, you watch Food Inc. That's an old documentary. Who hasn't seen that? And if you haven't, go watch it now. I mean, it's on Amazon for $3 a DVD. You can own it and pass copies around. But you see those animals shoved around with bulldozers and up to their, hawks and poop, and you think that's stewarding well. You can't watch that and think that's stewarding well. And every time you just go outside and say, oh, well, I'll just do this drive through this one time, or what, I mean, you're putting dollars toward that system, and no one's asking for perfection. Just think about where you're putting your dollars, mm-hmm. and try to make a better decision every day. know?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is it perfection that I refuse to poison my children even a little bit? Like, how much poison is good enough for you?
Ooh, gosh, that's so good. And I love that. See, you're spanking me out of it. You're spanking me out of wrong mindsets. And that's your word. I'm hijacking your word that sometimes you need to spank people out of it. But I do need that. And it's changing those thoughts and those ingrained belief systems, because I will let you in a little bit on my journey here. You know, we're not from here. In Joel's books, he says, don't come in being the weirdo. You know, you can't, you can be a Buddhist and you can be a nudist, but you can't be a Buddhist nudist. And so it's probably been a year and a half. I posted, hey, why are we buying foods from farms that even do traditional grains? Because we're still supporting this system. And that'll knock you out of a community really fast, because we all need each other. You know, we all need to support each other.
Right.
We had a crisis here where farmers from all backgrounds came and helped us, and my mind was blown. And I was like, okay, this is a touchy subject. It just is. But in my home, I get to choose. And that's what you're saying. Stay in your lane. We talked about that before. Stay in your lane. Don't try to control other people. But by your walk, you can show, okay, I will be the weirdo, because there is no tolerance for, I mean, you're not going to put poison in your kids if you really think highly of your kids.
Well, I have people in my membership, and we have someone in the membership who's pregnant right now, and she's a first-time mom. And her question to me one day was, what do you think about, you know, pediatricians? I don't know what to do about that, she says. I said, well, do you think that you need someone to teach you how to love your baby? And she was just like, what? And I said, well, do you think so? And she's like, no. I said, okay, well, you don't need anybody. The pediatricians right now, all they're doing is selling a program and a product. It's not like, I mean, when we were growing up, that wasn't really the main thing, and nobody was required to go there on a schedule.
Right.
Well, wellness checks, that sounds dumb. I need to go get a wellness check. Why? Because I'm well.
You're sick. Yeah.
Oh, you're well and you're going to the doctor to see that you're well? Is that what you're doing? That's stupid. That's like saying when you go to the doctor and they say that you're pre-diabetic and you're like, so do I have diabetes? And they say no. And then you're like, what's pre-diabetes? Do I have diabetes? No. Okay, so I don't have diabetes, right? Right. Okay, well, then I don't have diabetes. I mean, I don't know how I wake up every day and live if I'm pre-diabetic. Now, other people right now would say, well, that's ridiculous. You should want to know if you're going to be sick. Well, how about I already know if I am smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or eating ding-dongs and drinking bang drinks, or I don't even know all the other things that are in an aluminum can that isn't water. If I'm drinking something and it's not water or raw milk, I don't really know what I'm drinking it for.
Yeah, let's talk about this because I want to get in this. We didn't even talk about this, but I want to talk about it. What about wheat? I want to ask you because we've talked about this before, and I like to know what you're eating over there, and I want to know what your real thoughts are on, because I have a friend who's fully fermenting 24 hours, organic, fresh milk grain. I want to know what your thoughts are on that because I've talked to you about it in the past. And people tend to think European grains are better. You can do that if you do it a certain way. But, like, in the past, wheat is 100% no, drug, don't have it in your house. So where are you on that?
We were wheataholics. And we gave wheat up 15 years ago. And so I was reading Wheat Belly, and I decided to do the 7-day challenge that's in Wheat Belly. And I will tell you that before you really just trust this physician who wrote the book Wheat Belly, at the end of the book, he gives you recipes and how to use a microwave. So that is not what I'm trying to sell here. But I want you to pay attention to the fact that they explain, this is a cardiologist who's explaining that wheat causes heart disease, okay?
Okay.
And I would even argue right now that even more than wheat and sugar, that vegetable oils cause heart disease. It's funny. They want everybody to believe that animal fat causes heart disease, but I'm saying to you, I'm not calling it saturated fat, which mixes up coconut oil, which is a plant oil, with, ghee or butter or lard or whatever, which is animal fat. I am not going to mix it up like that because everything that the corporatocracy says is lies and immorality. Let's just start with that. So just by mixing those two things up and going with saturated fat is a lie. It is immoral. I'm here to say that anything that's not animal fat, if it's plant fat or man-made fat from, I don't know, whatever immoral scientific way that they make fake animal fat or whatever, fake fats, that causes every metabolic dysfunction. Let's just start with that. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, grains. If you are mixing it up with the oils, then you're already compromised. Because like Joel Salatin will argue, well, we used to eat wheat all the time and it wasn't really that big of a deal. I agree. It was after the Crisco, evolution and corn oil and all of that stuff that everybody came off. Because even in India, they only used to cook with ghee. And, they use ghee and coconut oil over there and fish oils. And over here, everybody only ever really cooked with lard.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe butter. And, maybe they clarified ghee here. I don't even know. I don't know. I know that people used animal fats like tallow and bear fat and, whatever. But it wasn't frequently that anybody would ever have had any vegetable oil because, A, we only had horse and wagons. I don't know that anybody even had drills, like electric drills. So how would you even produce a vegetable fat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's a talk Sally Fallon gave, the Oiling of America. You've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
but
the history.
Yes.
Like before then, what was going on before then and how they smeared all that. It's like turn of the century, 1900s, like early.
Early.
And I found a book. Yeah, I found the book at one of my friends. She owns an antique store. I found a really interesting book. I'll send some pictures. I can post it on my personal page, or I can even post it on, I guess, Martha's Milk on Instagram. But it was paid for by the corn oil refinery or something, and it's a little cookbook they put out, and it's old, over 100 years old, and all these recipes to switch you to corn oil.
Yeah.
So I would agree on that. And then you think wheat after that is the next thing to get out of your pantry.
Well, first of all industrialized grain, which means all the grain all over the world, it causes a problem. But let's just not forget, there is no restaurant, there is no food company. If you're trying to get away from oils, like plant oils, if you're trying to get away from plant oils, you cannot do it. You can, not for anything that's pre-made. Let me say that. The only way to get away from all that is to make everything by yourself. Like make something at home. There's nothing out there that you can buy that is not using plant fat. I guess there's a couple of things now. I know they used to make potato chips in lard. When they made, like Utz still makes some potato chips in lard. A lot of people don't like them because they don't like the flavor of the lard because they're so conditioned to plant fats.
Yeah, I want to go back real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a little distraction. I don't know if you heard her come in, but I had a little girl come in distracting me. So, sorry. We're getting back on focus here on this week. Okay, industrialized grains. So I listened to a podcast, I don't know, it's been like 6 months ago, on heritage wheat being grown out, like, I want to say Utah area. I probably have that all wrong. But anyway, she was saying, like, these land race, like, I think it's called land race. I don't even know. But she said it's, like, so different. And people stop and look at their farm because it's how wheat used to look.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
No, we're having a casual.
It was einkorn.
Yeah, it's einkorn.
She said people stop and look, but if we're ordering, let's just say this normal moms over here ordering einkorn from Azure, you totally stay away from that too, and just say no. Just go forego all grains.
Let me back it up.
Expert opinion. Whoa.
Yeah.
Your expert opinion. Are there any safe grains? Because there's people. I know them that love bread.
Yeah. Hey, girl, I was a wheataholic, and this is what I have to say: is most of the people who are wheataholics, like I was, are not off of plant fats.
Okay. Huh.
They're
Wow.
not.
So
They're
get
not.
off those first.
I mean, I don't know anybody who is eating bread. First of all, if you're eating, let's just say that you are that person and you're making the highest quality sourdough bread and that's all y'all eat at home, right?
Uh-huh.
You're the same person when you're on the road. You are not going to hesitate to eat bread anywhere else because you don't do it all the time.
Gotcha. So you're just saying having access to it, still liking bread, you're going to say, okay, this one skip out thing.
Yeah, you're not wheat free. You're not wheat free, so you're going to eat wheat anywhere you go. Also, the other problem with that is that, I don't personally believe that you can have good wheat and that your gut can handle it when you've been raised on plant fats and everything else for so long. I don't think any of us can say, any of us who are adults today, right now in 2024, I don't know any of the adults here right now, myself included, that we grew up and we did not eat basically garbage at some point.
Totally.
We literally have been poisoned for the majority of our lives.
Yeah, I was going to say like Taco Bell all through high school. And you think this is normal. What's on the dollar menu.
Right.
Plus the convenience foods that sneak into your home when you're teenagers. And so, I remember.
Sneak. It was just part of our house. My mom used to cook, okay? My mother cooked everything. She made us very traditional Indian meals, which were mostly vegetarian meals. And she had some meat in there, but it wasn't a lot. And it wasn't because she was trying to, or that, it wasn't even about money. It is the false belief that you're doing less harm with plants than you are with animals. This is a false belief. Do you know, as a carnivore, I can kill one cow. That's one life. It's one life that gave life its entire life. A regenerative cow gave life its entire life. And now I'm taking that one life and that one life will nourish me and my family for a solid 3 months if I'm carnivore. That's only one life. That's less harm than any amount of plants. Because how many plants do I got to take out for one dinner? How many plants do I have to take out for a fruit snack or whatever? How many plants do I have to take out? If you're going to just talk about, if you're going to consider plants and animals in this discussion for doing harm, then I win as a carnivore. Do you see what I'm saying? As a carnivore, I win.
Yes, you're taking less life. And plants are alive. I was a biology major. They're alive. And then this is interesting to me that people say, oh, you're killing a life. You're so cruel. Well, you can look on any social platform today and see people that are talking to trees. They communicate. Mushrooms communicate. There's a communication system. I'm not saying they're intelligent like humans, okay? But that you can't say that they have some kind of interesting, I don't even know how to put my finger on it, but I've seen some interesting things that you can't say, oh, that's, look, we're I don't know. I just feel like it's a mute argument. Don't argue with me about you're harming something and you're not. Yes, it's all harm. And I agree with Joel saying, respect the life that you're taking. Whether it's a plant or an animal, it was put here to nourish you. Yes. And so I'm not saying plants are put here to nourish us. I'm still mixed on that. I'll just say we're currently mixed on that. We looked at carnivore. We like some plants in our diet. And I've looked at, Paul Saladino, who has it. And I'm like, oh, I can have fruits and milk. Maybe I could do that, But to say you're such a bad person for taking the life of an animal from the point of like you're such a more ethical being than me because you only kill plants. Well, plants are alive.
You kill more animals harvesting wheat than you do.
Yes, the combines.
Yeah, I've
been in that combine.
Yeah,
as a child.
Yes.
I have been in that combine. My dad brought us deer,
Yes.
rabbits.
Yes.
I have pictures of it in my bed that he mowed over.
Yeah.
And he harmed. And he would bring them for us to rehab. You can't tell me that's not true. As soon as you see those pictures, I'm like, I lived that. I know that to be true.
That's great evidence, because I am saying to everybody that there are more animals and more, well, the soil. You are ripping, they're out there spading the soil. They're turning the soil. They're disking the soil. You are killing and causing more harm just to plant wheat than I am eating one whole entire cow.
Right. That's interesting, especially if you dig down into, all what life is in the soil.
Right, right. And my cow that I ate gave that life to the soil and supported it and fertilized it and gave life the whole time. And then we gave thanks. I mean,
right.
Also, why would there be cows if we weren't supposed to steward them and have dominion over them? Also, finally, let me be very clear. We're the only animals, Homo sapiens sapien, are the only animals on the planet that have foresight, that have creativity, and that have, the main thing that we have that they don't have is that we have imagination. And so it is the reason we were given dominion over them is to be creative and to support them and to respect them and to honor them. And we have to steward them.
I'm laughing because I'm sitting in my back room watching chickens on my back porch, and they're so cute. And everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. And they're delicious. Mm-hmm. But they are such a joy to raise. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because, I'll just tell you, like a side note, I came from a very manicured subdivision. Had a decorator in my past. I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. And I had a nice porch, and everything was clean and pressure washed and beautiful. And now I have free range chickens that poop. I'm going to clean that up all over my porch. Yeah. And it's so funny. For the first couple of years, my mom was like, Terry, this is so gross. And I was like, I get it. But they don't respect my Premier One netting. And I want them to range and eat the diet that they need to eat. Chicken is of the, chicken. And they like to go around and forage. And they like to come visit us and peck on the window. And I'm going to put up with the nasty porch to get the eggs and the kind of chicken I want. So, but yeah, they are a joy.
That's great. I think they also have a longer life than they otherwise would, and they're I don't know how many eggs even would hatch without your stewardship.
We had a lot of broody ones this year. It was shocking, actually, a lot, and the baby chicks are a joy to watch. I'm going to go back because I got to drill down on this. Okay, knowing what you know, the journey you've been on. And I don't know how many people from when I share this on my page, how many people know your story, but I'm going to get your book into this little milk store. And then we're planning to open our store on our farm in 3 months. And so it'll be a staple here. I'm so excited just for this reconnection, but I don't know how many people know that you lost your daughter to get on this journey. And so, the knowledge I remember you saying there wasn't internet. You went to the library, you dug and dug and dug. And any moms, like talking to moms, any mom knows that. They would research, read, ask people to find the answers. And you've done that and applied yourself to honor her memory and to share with other moms her story and to try to rectify something that's gone way wrong in our country. And you've gone beyond that, beyond the food system, beyond the hospital system, which is so impressive, but going back to food in your home. We covered the vaccines, but going back to food, when you say you're carnivore, what does that mean? Because I've talked to different carnivores. We have carnivores come here to, get milk, and they buy suet and beef, but some carnivores don't drink raw milk. So for you and your family, what is a good diet that actually gives you life?
Well, I should start with, it depends on how damaged you are. I've had 3 autoimmune conditions. So my first autoimmune condition was vitiligo, which is cured, and the orthodoxy doesn't believe there is a cure for that. So let me just tell you, there is a cure. And the cure for vitiligo involves light therapy. So I was very early on already having experienced the power of circadian rhythm. And so there's that. That's a whole nother, I think we need another couple hours to do that conversation. But so there's that. Circadian rhythm, circadian biology. And then secondly, I had a thyroid condition. So my thyroid I had a hypothyroid. At first I was misdiagnosed like so many times because the doctors don't know anything. So, Hashimoto's is what it finally turns out to be. And I don't actually even know if that's really true. Because I can't actually really know that for sure. But what I know is that was the second issue that I had. And the last one, I was starting to develop rheumatoid arthritis. And RA is 1,000,000% caused by wheat. So whether you agree about anything else about the grains, if you have arthritis, the only way for you not to have arthritis is to stop eating wheat. So you can just decide when you've had enough pain. Because in my experience, changing the way that we eat has to generally come from the depths of an enormous amount of pain. And so, after my experience with my daughter, I didn't want to sacrifice 2 more children when I had already seen the truth. So there was that. There was no amount of poison that was ever going to be good enough for us. And I've been vehemently adamant about that. And only when my book came out and we started traveling have we compromised what we ate. And by that time, my son was an adult. My daughter is 15. And they will tell you that we will eat steaks from Longhorn if we're on the road. Just not to starve. But I also have a hot plate in my car, and I can't do that more than once. Like, I can't do it all the time. I can't do it every day, or I can't do it once a week. Okay? And so it's not something that's a normal thing for us. But, if we're making a drive out to Tennessee and we bring food on the road and we can get through and it's all fine, it's fine. Also, sometimes we just need to have a break and get out and we need a break. So while we're having a break, we might do that at a Longhorn. And we only started doing that way later. But if we do go there, then we're only going to eat the steak and we're not going to eat anything else.
And that's it. Okay.
Yeah, it's just going to be the steak. And we're going to tell them they can keep their sides and whatever, But at home...
So when you say how damaged is her gut, did you start with a GAPS before? I remember talking to you, you're like, you may need to heal your gut before even raw milk. That's something I think people should know. You may not even need raw milk yet if your gut's not filled enough.
So the GAPS protocol came out after anything that we were doing. There was no GAPS protocol at that time. There was no paleo at that time. There was no Whole30. When we were going through what we were going through, then Dallas Austin and Melissa Hartwig were still writing Whole30. Whole30 didn't come out until after 2009. And Jeffrey Smith's book about GMOs was also just published after 2009. And I mean, 2009 was when my daughter died. 2009 was when a whole lot of things happened. And all of these people were coming up with their research at the same time as we were going through it at the hospital. I mean, that's how powerfully God was lining everybody up to come out and start revealing the truth at the same time. Isn't that crazy?
I think it's awesome that timing. Obviously don't think anything you walked through was awesome, but I do know and 100% believe it from my own journey. Like, he's a redeemer. He makes beauty from ashes. Yeah. And 20 years, it's not been 20, but 14 years later, it's beautiful what you've done for other families, what you've done for your children that are still earthside and not in heaven, and Mina's legacy is beautiful, and all the people you've woven together through this is beautiful. So, it's the time when you said earlier, God is always on time. 100% agree.
Yeah, God is on time every time. And so, we at home, our home is sacred. And one of the things that we had to figure out, you were talking about the problems of having a 7 a.m. and a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shift. Like, my husband and I never saw each other for almost a year. Because when I say almost didn't see each other, he would be coming into the hospital while I was leaving the hospital, while we were at Duke Children's Hospital for a solid 6 months. And it was insanity. I don't think people realize that when children are diagnosed with cancer, they're not outpatient. They're inpatient, because those people are using our children as guinea pigs. They get, from a child that's 2 years old, they get 10 years worth of research from a 2-year-old, every month. It's crazy. And so they're testing them with these chemotherapies. That means that my daughter became a pincushion, right? That's what I told them. I said, she's not going to be your pincushion anymore. We're leaving. And to which they came after us for our kids. That's a different story, too. You were asking me.
No, I do. I think that's interesting that you brought that up, because I think, we talk about, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture coming to your home. That's one thing. And then I've heard Joel say that, they confiscated his beef. And my other friend, Maureen Diaz, has been to FDA sit-ins and raids and Pennsylvania raw milk farmers. And the bravery it takes to keep operating a milk farm is zero compared to a mom saying, you're not taking my children. Like, that is every mom's worst fear. And you face that down. To do what was best for your daughter. That's huge. And just standing up to all of these institutions takes every ounce of energy and bravery you can muster, but you faced it. And that's I don't know, that's honorable. And what you did for her to bring her home and risk that is honorable. Yeah, I have to say, I don't know if I've ever said this to you, but when your mom said to you, you did the right thing, when you went back and her scans were clear, for your mom to verbalize that over you was huge. Because in my own journey, I've had my mom question me, and I love my mom dearly. I do. But to be questioned by your mom is hard. To be questioned by your mom while your daughter is dying, and you're going against mainstream institutions who everybody thinks is the end-all be-all, but you know best, and your mom to be on your side was like, I cried when I read that. I was like, thank God for her mom.
I mean, and she did that when it mattered.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of times that she doubted me, and she still doesn't really. Our family doesn't really do what we think should be done. I mean, when Mina died, they were just like, well, now we can get back to normal. I was like, oh my gosh, no, we can't. We'll never. I've learned to read now, so no. Now I can't pretend like I don't know how to read.
Right. So yeah, this is no new. This is no back to normal. This is, your eyes are wide open, and it's keep trying to peel off the layers of brainwashing.
Yeah. Yes, I think that, I know we've gotten way far away from what your question was, which I honestly can't even remember it now, but.
What you're eating in your house.
Oh, in the house, yeah. Okay, so here's what we do. Let me definitely answer this question. I thought it was important to answer. So, for 14 years, well, I don't know. Wait, how many years is that? From 2009 until 2020 or 2020. That's 10 years, right?
11, yeah.
11 years. Okay. So, yeah. For that many years, we didn't eat at restaurants. Like, full stop. We didn't eat at a restaurant.
Wow.
So, now what was funny was at the very beginning of all of that, you know, my husband's family's in New Jersey, so we would drive up to Jersey and we'd drive back, right? And on the way there, I mean, I used to have to, Tara, if you know you got to put all the food away for 3 children under 5 in a car for all the way from North Carolina to New Jersey, this is a 10, 12-hour ride, right? And then you got to take all the food there that you want to eat because you're only going to eat from not the grocery store. So, you know, I got one of those big white 7-day coolers, you know. That's what was in my van. So, yeah, normally the only people who know about these 7-day coolers either work a farmer's market or they know that they've been on a boat where they keep ice for the fish on a 7-day cooler on the boat, right? Otherwise, not very many people know about the 7-day coolers. But anyway, we had a 7-day cooler that we would fill with you can only fit 2 milk crates in a 7-day cooler. And then in the middle, we'd have a bunch of meat, which was our ice for the trip, basically. And then in the coolers, in the crates, on one side, we'd have all the raw dairy, and on the other side, we'd have eggs and things like that. And so we literally took every single thing that we were going to eat. And at that time, we were just not eating wheat. So we would carry, like, we had a gluten-free baker here local. And so we had, you know, different breads and things that she made. And we were actually, at that time, we were using, what is that grain? We did eat bread made out of, oh my goodness, I forget. I'll have to think about it, and it'll come back to me.
Is it an ancient grain?
It's that African ancient grain.
Like emmer?
Say it again.
Huh, I don't know.
No, oh my goodness. It'll come to me. Oh, okay. Teff. It's teff.
Okay.
We were eating teff bread. We ate that my gluten-free baker worked with us for 10 years, and so we did eat teff bread. Okay. For those years, okay? And I will say that must have helped us because we did get better. You know what I mean? It got rid of all the eczema. It got rid of all the acnes and all the different things. And for the longest time at the beginning, I was trying to do sourdough just for the record. And we had an organic sourdough bread company here. And that only lasted for like a year. Before I was just still not getting better. And I was the canary in the coal mine, and it was mostly my health. You know, but the kids still had eczema with the sourdough. But as soon as we put them on teff and we got rid of all the other stuff, then, you know, and the thing about working with a gluten-free baker is I was able to set our sugar levels, which we reduced our sugar level dramatically, so much to the point that when we had cupcakes or cakes or anything, you know, for the children's birthday parties, my mom would always say, I don't like y'all's cakes and cookies. And I think your baker just always doesn't put sugar in them. She thought we were baking things without sugar. And that's how low our sugar level was. Because it was funny. I know how low the sugar level has to be to make a cookie still stick together like a cookie. Because you need sugar to hold the cookie together. And so we know the minimum amount of sugar that's required with the butter to make the cookie work. Isn't that funny?
I think that's awesome that you went through all that experiment. That's what I was getting at. Like, how did you find out the diet? And it seems like you went through a lot of trial and error. Well, and you worked with other people in your community to keep going on your food journey, to keep making it cleaner, keep making it cleaner, keep making it cleaner. And I feel like as moms, we're all on that journey. Yes. And sometimes we think, oh, someone just jumped there overnight. Like somehow you magically have You know, but I want to take a minute to say, can you tell me about your coaching program? Because I know a lot of people that I know. I mean, like, we lived in Franklin, so in my group, there's a lot of people from Franklin. And then there's a lot of people from Fayetteville, Huntsville, and then I just would say Middle Tennessee in general, because of, in Nashville, because Jay works in Nashville, but all kind of in this Middle Tennessee area, and then Huntsville's found us. And so there are moms, I can't tell you how many moms come and say, oh, my kid vomits all the time. Like, they have eosinophil esophagitis, or they definitely have what they think is lactose intolerance. They just don't know it's dead milk intolerance, you know, or eczema, different issues with their kids. They find us. And so I would like to know, how do you reach you for coaching?
So I coach, if they want to coach with me, then I have a link, and I'll share it in the notes for this podcast. And I can also, if they go to my Instagram or YouTube channels, then it's on my link tree. If they are interested in coaching. Most of the coaching that I do, the majority of what I do is within my CSA, because then I can control the food that they have access to. But if they're outside of my CSA, like, let's say they're getting milk from you, then, you know, I coach people like that, and because they have access to getting food from you. I also have, you know, people who are in other areas of the country who I coach, who don't have regenerative farmers around them. First thing I do is try to find a regenerative farm around them and try to connect them. And then if I can't do that, then Polyface ships. So they can order from Polyface.
Yes,
they can order from Polyface Yum. And even if they're getting their beef and their milk from you, but they don't have the option for other things, then they can get those items from Polyface. But, you know, I try to help them find everything that they can local first. Because it's, first of all, it's just important to maintain your circadian rhythm. But secondly, obviously, you want to support people who are around you. And finally, it's too expensive to ship meat. So that's your last resort. Always. You know, it's always better to get something local. And
I agree, but some of the things, like, I just made a pate from their hearts and livers. We had a lot of our own.
Yes.
But I wanted to make some extra, and I was up there. I think you were there the last time I was there, and it's winter, and I'm cleaning out our freezers, turning things over, and I was so glad to have extra, and so I could put extra pate back in the freezer. I told my husband I get his sick addiction to potted meat. He doesn't do that anymore, thank goodness. We've come a long way, baby. That's what I was gonna say. Is like, okay, you know, I'm not equipped or set up, nor do I have the talent to do that, but I know that you do. And then your book, they can order, like, I'm going to carry it in the store, but they can also, I'm sure it's available on Amazon.
Actually, not anymore. So,
okay, so how do they order it?
Yeah, if they order the book, it'll be from my website. So my book came out in 2020.
Okay.
Which was not a good time for anything to happen. You know, like, so many things collapsed. And I never actually got to give it a really big promotion. And then I've been censored like crazy since then. And
I
so,
would assume, I mean, just the title's going to get you censored.
Yeah,
I mean, meat riot.
Yeah, I'm super censored. And yeah, I'm mostly blocked because I was teaching mothers how to cook meat. Like, if I post videos of how to cook meat, then I'm totally censored. Every time I do a meat video, it like gets flagged or whatever. It's crazy. I mean, and people don't know how to cook meat. Everybody's been trained by the orthodoxy to overcook meat and literally turn it into something that's very difficult to digest, when meat is the easiest food to digest. It's the only thing that can cure the cancer. It's the only thing that can cure the, multiple sclerosis. It's the only thing that can cure all of the autoimmunities. And do you know it's the only thing that will chelate heavy metals and toxins and everything out of your body?
Did not know that.
I mean, there's plants that supposedly will do it, but I don't know anybody who does these plant protocols and actually lives a long life post all of that, with a cancer diagnosis. I don't know too many people that are able to do it without the meat.
Okay, so now I got a question for you. How do you get your kids on board? Because if I feed my kids meat every meal, they're going to be like, Mom, were your kids little and they just went along with it? Or did you have to coach them, be like, nope? I mean, because I do think I remember this vague conversation you and I had a couple years ago where you're like, yeah, we brought our own food to birthday parties.
We did.
You have to be the weirdo.
Yeah.
You have to say, and which is, I don't mind being the weirdo.
I used to I would bring a dish for them to share. So it wasn't like,
oh, that's nice.
So I would just tell the children, okay, I'm bringing this dish. Now here was what my problem was. When I would bring a dish to share and it was the only item that my kids could eat, and then everybody else would eat it and they wouldn't eat all the other garbage that was there. That was what was that was two things. That was, first of all, a test that I wasn't trying to have. I wasn't trying to do this test. But interestingly, if I bring a meal to a party that nobody knows me, nobody knows why I'm bringing that dish, you know what I mean? We're just a guest at somebody's party, and we bring a dish to pass. Everybody will finish our dish and they won't eat any of the other garbage there. What's going on? Or even if they're eating all that other stuff, they finish ours first. So I would have to put our stuff on the side, or bring two, one to share and one for nobody to touch.
So your kids would always have it. So did they ever give you any pushback? Like, Mom, I want a cupcake. Mom, can I have a sucker? I mean, all these other kids have a sucker. I mean, I kind of feel like my kids are assaulted everywhere we go, church.
My kids have been told, I have told them the truth forever. And we never,
and so they just know.
And so originally in the very beginning, so this is how it started. The way that it started was our kids were not in school. I was homeschooling them. And then one of the moms that tried to join the CSA ran a micro school. And she said, how do I get your food? And I had heard about her school and I was wanting to talk to her, but she reached out to me before I reached out to her. And I said, well, I won't let you get any food until you help me figure out their schooling. And she was like, what? I said, well, I heard you have a sugar-free school. Tell me what that's all about.
That's awesome.
So then she started explaining that to me, and that was, again, just, God's timing. And so I had a sugar-free school now for my children to go to. And the rule at their school was you can't share food, period. So none of the kids,
awesome.
Every child had to bring their own food, and every child was not allowed to share their food. And then whenever they had a party or something, it had to be a sugar-free event. And we just took things that didn't involve wheat or sugar. And so I at that time, we had our gluten-free baker. So it wasn't really a big deal for me not to have a thing of cupcakes made up for if they were going to a birthday. If they were invited to a birthday, then we had some cupcakes for them.
Awesome.
We had some things for them that we would take. And so the kids were able to have, something. Now, if something happened at school and they had to say no because they couldn't eat it, and they came home and they felt like they weren't able to participate, I told them to tell me if they ever had to miss something at a birthday, and that I would make it right for them. And so if they ever told me that, I would say, okay, do you want to go to Toys R Us and get a new toy? Or do you want to go to Whole Foods and find some clean candy?
That's awesome. Because they do have it, like Zolly.
Yes.
I don't know what you think about Zolly.
That must be something new. I haven't heard of that, but... Yeah.
It's a xylitol candy.
No, xylitol is not good, Sarah.
Okay, dang. Man, I have so much to learn. Okay, so what candy, because let's talk about this, what candy is good?
So it should have real, hopefully, if you can find something with either animal fat or no plant fat.
Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you that I think that regular sugar is better than any of the chemical sugars. And anything that doesn't have petrochemical food coloring.
I kind of feel like I'm going to have to make it. And then my next question is, can you make a cookbook? Like, can't you just jump on that for us?
Okay. Everybody keeps saying this to me. And the funniest thing about it is that Joel Salatin's like, there's 10 million cookbooks out there. We don't need one more. And
no, for sure we do. And proof being is, Sophia Ing,
yeah.
That book, was needed. There wasn't a twist on that. And I feel like, for moms who really want to go carnivore, and I'll be transparent with you, I've known a lot of people that have gone carnivore and they expect to do it just for a little while and then they extend it because they feel so good.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, what if we just did it for a little bit? But in the back of my mind, I know it's going to be healing. And so I'm like, I got to know how to commit to this for the long term.
So let me speak to that.
Resource?
So you asked me about that. I want to speak on that before I forget it again, because we start getting down these other little rabbit holes. But so for the record, my children and my husband are not carnivore. They don't want to be carnivore. But they are mostly carnivore, and they don't really know how carnivore they are because but I don't make a whole bunch of other stuff. So for the way that we did it was a cowboy diet, and that's what my encouragement is for everybody, is that really at the end of the day, what I find that most children and most parents only really want is meat and potatoes or meat and pasta or rice. Or some kind of grain, bread. At the end of the day, you're putting meat and bread together. You're using bread for a vehicle, for fat, or you're using rice, or you're using pasta. And so, why don't you replace everything with potatoes?
I have heard you say that before, and I literally have potatoes sitting by I like cooked bacon and sausage, and I have these potatoes sitting there, and I'm like, next meal, we're adding potatoes. And when you're getting off wheat, I've heard you say that lean heavy on potatoes.
Yes.
Well, Jay's, Irish descent, so that works well for us. We all love potatoes. My favorite food group in college was French fries. I know they're not. I have beef tallow now, so maybe I could can I fry beef tallow?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I make French fries. Listen to what I do, Tara. That's easy. Because frying is kind of messy and a pain in the butt and uses a whole lot of that fat, right?
Tallow, yeah.
So let me just tell you what the easy way is. This is the easy mama way. You preheat your oven to 450 degrees. You cut your potatoes in cubes. Consistent cut is consistent cook, okay? So you peel them definitely, and you cube them into whatever size consistent cut is consistent cook, okay?
Okay.
Now, you take them, you slather, you put them in a mixing bowl or in the cast iron pan itself. I use the cast iron pan. Just use the pan as your mixing bowl, okay? And pour your lard in over it and work it into, with your hands, work it into all the potatoes in the pan. Okay. So now you've greased the pan and you've greased the potatoes, but you don't necessarily have a pool of lard in there, right?
Right.
Okay, now put the pan in the oven for like 15, 20 minutes, pull it out, take a big spatula, and then just get it from, unstick the potatoes, because, the starch is going to kind of make it stick to the pan. So you unstick them all around and try to flip them around, kind of stir it up a little bit, and now put them back in for another 15 minutes or so, then unstick them again, and maybe you do it for another 5 or 10 minutes. So that's about maybe 30 minutes in the oven, but you're doing other things and you're not worrying about anything. But you will get crispy potatoes out of there that are just roasted, but they taste like fried, and they have lard all over them and salt. You larded and salted them.
Okay, I'm down with this. I'm down with trying it. I don't like the new year, new diet stuff because I feel like winter's for rest. But I've had time this month to think about, okay, what do I want to do different this year? Just kind of pray through that. And I told you we were focused on the soil.
Yes.
There's a couple of conferences I really want to attend Eco Ag at the end of this year because now we're farmers. We're not homesteaders. We do homestead some for us, but we're really producers, and we need a little more support in that area.
Yeah.
And so, but for us, walking what you talk is important.
Yes.
And healing.
Yes.
And so I can't really be authentic if I'm, selling raw milk, but then, I'm eating Papa John's. That's not going to work,
Well, so it's my encouragement for you to just focus on giving up wheat. You don't have to go carnivore. Why don't you just give up wheat? Because what you're going to end up doing is if you're really being true to what I'm saying, then you're just going to eat meat and potatoes. So here's the other thing. When you're on the road and you do need to stop somewhere, that's fine. Make yourself stop at Longhorn. That's either going to be too expensive or you're going to cook. Like, that's what we had to do. It's an expensive meal. It's expensive and it's not as good as what we have at home. So do we just want to do it all the time? No, it's stupid. Like, we're not wanting to do that. So, but if we're going to need to stop, if we're just exhausted, if we're just fried because we did a conference and we did this and we did that, and you want, it's a lot of work. So by the time that's all over with, sometimes it's fine to go into the hotel with your hot plate and flip your burgers, or you're just like, good grief, can I just get a break for a minute? Because I'm tired, I just need to sit down, feed everybody, and just stop it, right? So if that has to happen, especially because you got little babies, Yeah. I mean, I know they're not teeny tiny babies, but whatever. They're still young, and they still need help. So, and also, I don't care. Like, I have teenagers. They can cook here now, but they're not going to do a good job in a hotel room on a hot plate like me.
No. That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, I would have to probably take potatoes too because my kids love burgers. They love them, but they would feel like that, like they missed out on something if I just served them burgers. And so I'm trying to imagine
they will not. You're going to miss out. They're not. If they don't have it available because you don't have it available, they're not going to care. They're going to want more burgers. You just need to make sure you give them 3 patties and not 1.
Yeah.
So all of these things that you're telling me are you arguing for yourself, not them.
Oh my gosh, there's that spanking again.
Well, I love you. But first of all, when you're on the road and you're just trying to make a bunch of burger patties for the kids and yourself, it's easier, it's faster, you don't need 2 pans, you don't have time to do potatoes.
No, that's true. And what's so funny is I'm sitting here thinking that I'm like, my kids don't care. They'd be so enamored by just being in a hotel room.
Yeah.
They don't care if they're eating burgers or strawberries.
No.
I'm in a hotel room. Woo! They might not even sit down to eat because they're so jazzed from being on the road. And
exactly.
Fun,
Exactly. You're going to be like, oh my God, I have to give them like 5 things. And they're going to be like, no. If you told them, okay, all we have to eat is burger patties. So we're going to do that, guys. And here's some cheese on the side if you want them to do the cheese or put a slice of cheese on it. I mean, I don't understand how, they're going to be just really suffering with this horrible meal that you're giving them. You're feeding them your beef fried in lard in a cast iron pan on a hot plate in a hotel. And you're telling me that they're being deprived of something? And if you carry your raw milk for them to drink, you think the milk is the carbs. So dairy is our carbs. So we have raw milk in my family. We have raw yogurt in the house. We have raw sour cream. We have raw cheese. We have eggs. We have potatoes in here, and I keep some onions and garlic for seasoning their stuff. I don't personally eat it because it just doesn't make me feel very good, okay? And for them, I will also make like an Indian rice meal once a week, or they'll have sushi because they're not 100% carnivore. And if you pay attention to even like Dr. Kim Berry and Nisha, then, there's a spectrum on which people can tolerate things. And am I advocating for them to be able to have all that stuff? No. My son, I will tell you that if he has a choice, he will mostly just be carnivore. If you put a bunch of stuff in front of him and there's enough meat that will satisfy him, he will eat all the meat. The only reason he's going to eat any of the potatoes or something else is because he doesn't feel like there's enough meat, or he feels like he is not going to leave enough food for other people to eat.
Right.
And he's just trying to be not gluttonous, and he's trying to be gracious and conscious of the fact that other people need to eat also.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wait until the end, he will clear the rest of the meat. And my daughter, if she has enough variety of meat too, like we have a lot of day trip seafood. You asked me some time ago about us living in Tennessee or somewhere, and I said to you that we are like really wanting to stay close to the ocean because we're tied to the water. Well, over here right now, we have a relationship where for the past 15 years, we've had incredible day boat seafood every single week.
That's awesome.
So we have anglers that are fishing for us all year, all the time, every week. And we're ruined because we have day boat seafood, a variety of it seasonally, every single week. So our kids get the highest quality fish and shrimp and scallops, and our guys that are shrimping on the coast of North Carolina that are doing it the old school way. These are marine biologists, just like farmers have to be, vets if they're doing a good job. These guys are marine biologists. They're not going to over shrimp because that means they're not going to have any babies and they're not going to have shrimp next year. That's dumb.
Uh-huh.
So they have to be really careful. And so there's a season for shrimp because you have to leave them alone so that they can actually reproduce, right? So when you leave them...
I did not know that.
Yeah, just like all the seafood, there is spawning season for every creature, Just like there's a molting season for the chickens, and so there's no eggs or whatever. There's a season for everything. So in the same way, there's an abundance of shrimp and then there's no shrimp, okay? So what they started doing is they have an arrangement now with this local packer that is peeling, deveining, and instant quick freezing the shrimp. So we have local peeled and deveined IQF shrimp in 1 pound packs in the freezer that we support that 100% year round with my CSA with the food church, And so that is supporting these shrimpers. Otherwise, they don't have a solid income all year. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And so there's a lot of people investing in this, just like you need people, if they're going to come pick milk up from you, you need a standing order. You don't need them to be thinking about, I'm going to get it every other week, I'm going to get it once a month, I want a whole bunch of milk now. Yeah, if they're not getting it every single week, you just can't care about them. And it's not because you don't want them to have what they need. It's just that the milk comes every day.
Yep, it's a commitment, just like you said, a CSA. So I always tell people, I won't make you sign a contract to get the milk, but you have to commit weekly like a CSA, and they pay monthly. Mm-hmm. So we count on our customers monthly. You can pop in and get it because it's technically pet milk. And I always say, you don't have to sign a contract to get pink slime. I really there's something in my spirit that just doesn't like signing a contract to get God-given food.
Well,
but
Tara,
let me give preference to people who are committed, hands down every time.
How about this? How about under God's law and on the land and soil, we don't do contracts. That is a dead. That's something people do on the water. That's a maritime law thing. So only living men and women operate in honor. We operate with agreement, and we operate with radical self-reliance and self-responsibility. So either they're going to raise their own cows and milk their own cows, or they're going to make a commitment to get the best milk that they can get, or they just don't need milk. Mm-hmm. That's really all. And that's not me spanking somebody or being ugly. This is the truth. Remember the truth that we're all walking on or looking for? So truth aligns with morality, and lies align with immorality. And anybody who's walking the line is immoral. You have to pick a side of truth or lies. Otherwise, you're choosing lies. Because there's no line. There's only the truth and there's only the lie. So either be honest and honorable or don't. We don't care. That's why my shirt said, I don't care. And on the back of the shirt, it says, there is great love here for you. Because I can't support your immorality. My morality will not allow me to support your immorality. And that's really all. You have a world right now of immorality that is being entertained and supported as something good and acceptable. And that is because of the corporatocracy, which is dead. Corporate entities are dead.
So, okay, go back to that because I bet you anything. So I Googled that just to make sure I was understanding what you were saying by that.
Okay.
And so here's the definition. Corporatocracy is an economic, political, and judicial system controlled by business, corporation, or corporate interest. Is that how you see it? Or what do you mean when you say corporatocracy?
That's exactly what I mean. Our current, what everybody thinks is our government is not our government. It is the corporatocracy. It is the United States of America Incorporated. It is the U.S. Corporation. We are the government. We the people. The ones that haven't been at work for so long. Our government has been dormant for 150 years. That's a different problem. So what everybody is saying when they say, I have never said, I used to say, but I stopped saying. I used to say that I was upset with the government, but I'm not upset with the government. And for the last 15 years, I've known it's not the government, it's the corporatocracy, and that's what I wrote about in my book. I don't think that you ever heard me say that I was mad at the government. I said I don't support the corporatocracy. So the corporatocracy, now this is a whole nother interview we could do. The corporatocracy is owned and run and managed by the Vatican and the Pope. And then they use the crown, the fraudulent British crown. That crown is operating on water jurisdiction, and they are the territorial corporations that we subcontracted with our Constitution. Actually, there's 3 American constitutions, and our original Constitution was for our partnership when we hired the British the British territorial corporation to support us with their navy because they had the largest navy. And they also were given some other, work to do here within our colonies. But the original Constitution was that they were to be, they were to have access to all of our inner waterways and our coast, and they were protecting us on the high seas so that we could do business with Europe. And that was what the first Constitution was written for. A Constitution is a contract a nation makes with, another nation. And in our case, it was our foreign subcontractors, which were the Brits. And then we had a second Constitution with the Vatican because the Pope owns the Postal Service, and the Pony Express wasn't really working for us very well. And we needed a better way to manage postal service. And also we weren't able, we otherwise didn't have any way to write back to Europe. There were people, everybody who had come here wanted to be able to, send mail back and forth. Or, post some mail back and forth, right? And so we needed a postal service. And so the second Constitution was with the Pope and the Vatican for the postal services. What people don't also know is that the post office is not just a service that is, delivering what we call mail, which is actually supposed to be called post. So there's a difference between mail and post, and we can get into that too later. But right now, my bigger point is that the post office is a court and it is a bank. And in fact, when you buy postal money orders, those are the only gold-backed currency because our fiat currency is not gold-backed. But if you go and you buy a money order, that money order is gold-backed. by the
I'm
Vatican.
learning that.
Yeah, that's gold backed by the Vatican. But you can literally dispute claims, and you can dispute and actually manage any dispute that you have in writing through postal court. Just the same way that you record your trademarks or your copyrights. And when you incorporate, then you do all these things through postal court. And that is the reason why the Vatican and the Pope own all the corporations and the patents and the copyrights, including all of these sickening ones, like where they copyright and they have all of these medications that are trademarked. And the patents, not the trademarks. Well, I guess they do have trademarks also. But the patent that they have for all the medications that we don't want, whether we take them orally or whether they are, subcutaneous. So.
That's super interesting. And that is definitely, I think, a whole conversation that could be a whole nother hour interview, because I have like a million questions going down that.
Yeah.
I'm so not educated in that path.
To wrap that up, I just want to make a point that all the subcutaneous medications are all patented. And why would you allow your sacred bloodstream to be violated with a patent? Why don't we just leave everybody with that? We've been talking for an hour and a half. I think that this casual conversation has been full of truth bombs.
A lot to think on. I have a lot to think on myself, and I definitely am into breaking down walls and breaking off layers, peeling off layers of things that are lies. And you said, truth aligns with morality. Well, I'm after the truth. I'm after the truth for me. I'm after the truth for my kids. We want health. We want long life, and we want to operate under, God's law and natural law. And if you don't know what that is, and you're still operating under assumptions that, that's fine, or you don't even know what that is. You're not even aware. You have to keep pressing. And I will say, I don't know if you're like this, but the first couple of times I hear something, I'm like, is there something to that? Wow, that's interesting. That sounds crazy. What? And then it's just like everything else. Like the more you think about it, you're like, wait, I think I've known since my mom was vaccine injured. That was my first wake up call that, medicine isn't always good for people. And we had that conversation about allopathic medicine is good. Like I say, the ER is good. When you have an emergency, go to the ER. But if you're not after health and actually true life, then you're not really, there's no business you have to do there other than the emergency room. But anyway, so for this, like, even though my mind is saying, oh, the Pope owns all that? What? Why?
Right.
I know.
Why?
There's something there. Like, why?
That's
why?
a good question.
Why?
How? How about how? My question was how. Like, how? Who decided that the Pope was over the air jurisdiction, the crown was over the water jurisdiction, and that living men and women are over the land jurisdiction? But if you don't know that you are over the land jurisdiction, honestly, living men and women have general jurisdiction. But jurisdiction is a whole nother conversation that we could have. But, and that's a very big conversation. I think what people need to right now just be thinking is, something is wrong. Something is wrong. You might not know what it is, but why, when you really think about it, everything goes back to the corporatocracy. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. And, if you feel that we've assaulted your belief system, I think that we did, Tara. I think we kind of did. Why? Because all beliefs are thoughts you keep thinking, and you could just change your mind anytime and start thinking new thoughts. And then, I don't know, Tara, have your beliefs changed?
For sure, over time. Yes, a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be that girl that would enjoy having all the foodie food and go through New York and all the different restaurants and get dressed up and just try something new all the time. Like, what's not fun about that?
Right.
Until I got so sick that I couldn't do that anymore. I have to
and then I think about seed oils. Like, ooh, I really want to try that new restaurant. I'm like, yeah, no, seed oils.
That's the problem. I mean, like, I really want to go and be social, and I can't. I mean, I'm like, dude, can't you guys just all cook in butter? Like, what's the problem? If you don't believe in, ghee, and you don't want to make ghee, and you don't want to use lard or tallow, which, by the way, is way cheaper. I mean, right now, Terry, you can make butter all day long. You can render that into your own ghee. And what's easier between that or making lard?
Definitely ghee. And I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm like looking back through my notes. I was just writing and writing and writing. I have so much just to kind of ruminate over. But really, I'm so thankful for you. I want to say that I am very thankful for you. I don't think it's, coincidence that we stayed home from our homestead church today. Jay had a scheduled work today, which is really odd. But he had to go for that. And I was like, I'm going to be running this pirate ship alone. And wondering what I'm going to do. I have some bone broth going and just some, food projects. And that we connected today. I'm just so thankful because it's so much inspiration to keep on the same path, but dig deeper. And keep pressing in, because it takes a lot of energy to undo these things and to look and to change your thoughts. Yeah. It takes a lot of dedication to do that, and I appreciate you taking so much time out today to help answer questions and just help encourage me along that path.
Well, I appreciate it. You sent me some message, and whatever it was just a God thing, and the timing just works out because God's always on time.
He is always on time. Okay, well, I can't wait to talk again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.